Raiders, Falcons, I can't put that in the first segment. So Sam Darnold, Minnesota has a tough decision. I would franchise Sam Darnold, keep him around. But they brought Daniel Jones in. They drafted J.J. McCarthy. It is likely that they're going to let Sam Darnold become, a free agent. And here's what's really interesting. I love Darnold. You know that. First of all, his success is a total indictment on the Jets in Carolina. I mean, Aaron Rodgers' career since he went to New York circled the toilet. Okay, so Sam Darnold is only 27 years old. So somebody's going to get a very good quarterback in his prime. Big, strong, mobile, playmaker, coachable kid. Here's the thing, though. You're not going to get this good of a Sam Darnold because I don't even have to tell you this. Coaching is not even in this league. I mean, the gap between a McVay and a Kevin O'Connell, Andy Reid, Sean Payton offensively, and the rest of the league, or most of the rest of the league, is the Grand Canyon. All that said, you're not going to get Kevin O'Connell. You're not getting Justin Jefferson. You're not getting Jordan Addison. The O-line is underrated. This is a perfect scenario for Sam. And I look around at all the teams that could get Sam Darnold, and I'm like, there's one exception. There's one exception. The Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, yeah.
Anthony Richardson's had 14 starts. He completes 50% of his throws. It's a hard decision. Sometimes you just got to say, it's not working. The Colts roster, like the Vikings, above average. Colts have good receivers, not Justin Jefferson, good receivers. Their O-line, top 10 to 12 in the league. Their defense, go ask Bo Nix and Sean Payton. Their defense had the game won. Jonathan Taylor had a goofy decision and fumbled away the game, but he's an excellent running back. There is one place where Sam Darnold can go, and it's going to look closest to this. It's in the very winnable AFC South. It's not a great ownership division, even in Indy. It is wonky and winnable, and you'll get about 85%. You don't get a Justin Jefferson. You're not getting him. All right, he is just different. But I'm watching this last night, and I think they've got a very tough decision to make, but he's only 27 years old. Sam's got 3 to 4 years prime. That'll be the length of his contract. And I think Minnesota's going to let him go. I think I'd try to franchise him. But if they don't, coaching in this league is not even. But going from Kevin O'Connell to the Colt Shane Steichen, that's as well as Sam Darnold can do.
Yeah, I totally agree with that last part. I'm not going to talk about right now whether the Minnesota Vikings should move on or not from Sam Darnold. We already talked about that a bunch, and it is a legitimately hard decision to make, and don't assume that that J.J. McCarthy or any other quarterback will be able to do what Sam has been doing, because there's just no guarantee. There's absolutely 1,000% zero guarantee what Sam has been able to do. So you can't just say, well, they drafted J.J. McCarthy, he's going to be better. You just truly have no idea. It is a true coin flip. And I've already talked about that before, and this is what's annoying about the content around the Vikings. One, the show didn't even open with the Vikings. The Vikings, who have the second best record in the NFL right now, okay? They are literally a top team in the NFL. They beat the Bears, but the Bears get to open the show because it's Caleb Williams and the Bears. And it's like, they're out of control. The Bears are in a free fall, and yet we're not even talking about the Minnesota Vikings. And now when we talk about the Minnesota Vikings, just like, will Sam Darnold be the quarterback next season? It's like, there's still so much of this season at stake. The Vikings are a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I've been trying to shake the NFL world and been saying that. I mean, I shouldn't even have to do this. Look at this. Look at this record that they have. I mean, do we not understand? It goes Chiefs, and then it's tied with the Lions, Vikings, and Eagles. I've been saying now for weeks that the Vikings are contending for the #1 seed, not just to win the division. Not just to win the division over the Lions. They're literally 12-2. They are a top team in the NFL. They are a true bona fide contender. I just made a video yesterday, I think it was, but I think I posted today, where I was talking about how The Packers have not got a lot of media attention, and same thing with the Vikings. That all the attention has gone to the Lions, understandably so, because they've been winning in such a dominant fashion, and they had the momentum of last year going into this year, as well as like a big personality like a Dan Campbell. And then you had the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams, #1 overall pick. You had people saying that they're going to go to the Super Bowl. Caleb's going to be the next Mahomes. So you get why, at least going into this season, why those two teams are going to be favored from like an attention perspective. But then as the season unfolds, man, we can see what's right in front of us. Also, why is the Sam Darnold story not more crazy? Really, the main people that's really talking about it is indeed Colin Cowherd, more than anyone, more than any other show, and obviously myself. But like, the fact of the matter is that this team is great. I don't understand. This team is great. What will it take for people to truly take this team seriously? Because again, even the conversation, and again, this isn't me calling out Colin or anything, but like even after this team gets this win, and quite frankly, at this point, beating the Bears is not a big win anymore, especially once they fired Eberflus. That defense is like all over the place. And I got notes that I'll go over, but it's not like this was like a true competitive win. You saw two teams that were on completely different levels of one another. So it's kind of like, you're not even little brother. Like, the Chicago Bears aren't even born yet, okay? That's a mom who's just pregnant. Like, it's not even a little brother in them. It's just like, I don't even know what you are. I actually kind of feel bad. I'm like, maybe you should be like in a different classroom altogether, because this is just, this makes me uncomfortable at this point. I was actually cringing. When Caleb Williams got sacked, I was like, oh my God, the dude's going to get hurt. Like, especially if they didn't change the rules. If that was like in the 90s, I mean, I don't know if Caleb Williams ever plays football ever again. I mean, like, I was almost kind of like, like it was a great play, obviously, in the fumble and then the return of it. But I literally cringed for a second. I had like flashbacks. I was like, oh my God, is he okay? Please tell me you're okay. Can you feel your fingers and your toes? Like, oh my God. Like I said, at this point, you're almost just like, all right, this game's over. They got nothing. Like, this is just sad. And to still have so much attention on the Bears and Caleb and this and that, it's kind of just like, move on. The Vikings are a top team in the NFL. And so now when we're going to talk about them and talk about what this team can do and all the potential, and what do we have here? Should Sam Darnold be the quarterback next season? It's like, bro, that's conversation for a different time right now. That's a different conversation right now. It's not the topic at hand. And that's what just kind of just frustrates me, honestly, truly. I think what the Vikings did last night was so good. The way how they find open space versus zone coverage is just a thing of beauty. I think Trey Aikman pointed it out too for at least one of the plays, and it was just like they just find that space so effortlessly. I mean, Sam Darnold played well. I know his box score won't necessarily show it, especially because of that interception, which is really like a fluky interception going for 4th down. He knows he just kind of has to throw it up. But just the way how the Vikings started that game, and taking advantage of the absurdity of the Chicago Bears trying to go for it on 4th down. They're not that good. Like, they're not good enough to go for it on 4th downs, and it's kind of just fun. It just shows you kind of how badly of an operation this is. Just because teams are going for it on 4th down doesn't mean that you should go for it on 4th down. And the fact that the Vikings were able to make them pay for that is just great. I mean, they held them for 1 for 12 on 3rd down and 1 for 3 on 4th down. And one of those was at the very end of the game when they're pretty much, I think it was after the blocked punt, and it was just kind of like, the game was over, honestly, at that point. But the Vikings had multiple big 4th down stops, even though I don't say that the Chicago Bears are that good. Like, those were still important moments that the Vikings have to execute and not give up. It's not hard to imagine that they still wouldn't have been able to convert another follow-up 3rd down, but still big nonetheless, get good field position. I just think the way how the Vikings kind of attacked with the power runs with Jones, and then the play action to Addison, and then the play action to Jefferson. I mean, it was just boom, 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 touchdown, let's go. I mean, they just have such a powerful punch, and they play so hard. And again, that's why I also brought up the Detroit Lions, because all the things that people talk about the Detroit Lions, the Vikings very much have. They very much have. Very similar to the Philadelphia Eagles and the Lions. Those were the 3 teams those are the 2 teams, the Lions and the Eagles, and again, rightfully so, why people were so high on their offenses, at least. Let's just focus on their offense for the time being. And because all of the weapons and the physicality that they can bring and the run game and all of that. And I would say that the other high-powered offenses in the AFC are more surrounded about like Lamar and Derrick Henry or Josh Allen mainly more than anything else. And it's like that's kind of still too individual. For the Eagles and for the Lions, it was more like collectively of who they got. And again, I mean, the Vikings have all these dudes as well, right? Like, so they got the run game. They got the wide receiver 1 and 2. They got the tight end. Like, they got the bodies. They got the great coach to tie it all together. So whether it's the great coach or the coordinator, like, they got that. And they have the quarterback who's clearly also elevating and not a liability. I mean, Sam Darnold would have had another big play, but Jefferson just straight up dropped it. Which is why I never like when a wide receiver ever kind of rolls their eyes or kind of like gets mad at a quarterback for missing him, because it's like it goes both ways, man. It goes both ways. That's as easy as a drop as you'll ever see. And he did go my bad, but that's why I'm always like, I always cringe when I see wide receivers kind of look up. And I'm not saying Jefferson does this. I'm just saying that's just, a statement in general. But I mean, there was just the one, speaking of Jefferson, the one like 18-yard pass to the goal line to Jefferson. Oh my God. I mean, some of these throws and catches were just so, I mean, it's just beautiful ball. The 3rd and 17, because again, the physicality, we talk about like the never give up mentality of, say, like the Detroit Lions, which I'm sure Vikings fans are sick of hearing. And then you have like that 3rd and 17 from pretty much your own end zone. Jones getting that first down, right? Breaking tackles and just fighting for every inch. I mean, this is a game that it's so easy for the Vikings to sleepwalk through. I know it's a divisional game, but it's like, divisional games are different when the team is like not that good. They have no chance at making the playoffs. They're already like losing game after game after game after game. It just hits differently, right? When you're playing a divisional game, obviously you still want to win and you want to win big, but it's as a player, it's just a different mentality. It really is. And so the fact that you see them fighting, like they're trying to keep the Bears out of the playoffs, like they're still trying to fight the Bears to win the division, was just, again, it just shows you how well prepared, well coached, and how ready for the moment this team is. Colin keeps saying, "Oh, you don't want to face the Bucks in the playoffs," and understandably so. And he goes, "Oh, you don't want to face the Packers in the playoffs," understandably so. You don't want to face the Vikings in the playoffs. Like, it's a problem. And if the Vikings now take over, especially with the Lions with all their injuries, like, it's there for their taking. The Vikings can win the division. They'll have home field up until the should be up until the NFC Championship game. Or if the Eagles go down, then they get the home field advantage. So it's like, this is big time. And again, they still have the chance to get the number 1 seed. The Eagles have a couple tough games. The Commanders is a tough game. Even the Cowboys now with Cooper Rush is a tough game. And the Cowboys are going to bring it. They're going to want to spoil the Eagles 1 seed. So, and I forget who the other team they play. Oh, the Giants, I think it is. I forget. I think they play Commanders, Giants, and Cowboys. So regardless, those are at least 2 of those games. If it is the Giants, at least 2 of those games are absolutely, the Eagles can absolutely lose. And again, it's not hard to imagine that the Lions are going to somewhat be in a little bit of trouble now. The fact that they're decimated with injuries and doing onside kicks just because their defense is so decimated. So this is a real thing that the Vikings have. Can we stop pretending like this is just kind of fluky or kind of just like random? The Vikings are for real. This whole situation is for real. We can talk about figure out what to do with Sam Darnold later. It's like after Nick Foles balled out, against the Minnesota Vikings and led the Eagles to a Super Bowl, they didn't immediately be like, should the Eagles keep Nick Foles? They're like, oh, we don't got time to talk about that, man. We're going to the Super Bowl right now. Like, that wasn't the conversation. After they won the Super Bowl, then they were like, what do the Eagles do with Nick Foles? Like, that was a real conversation, and they had him still on there. I think he was either still on contract or they were able to just kind of pay him. I forget exactly. And then they led them to another playoff run, and they lost, no fault of himself. And then the Eagles moved on from Nick Foles, and honestly, it was probably the wrong move. Carson Wentz was the better quarterback and had the better potential, not unlike J.J. McCarthy, but Nick Foles worked better within that system, worked better within that team, and the team liked him more. The difference is that Nick Foles was already older, and Carson Wentz was he had already played with the Philadelphia Eagles, so you pretty much kind of knew what he looked like, what he brought. And he was an MVP caliber player. He would have won the MVP if he didn't get injured. But that following year, and you still kind of saw what his interactions were in the locker room, and clearly people just don't like Carson Wentz from a locker room presence. That appears to be a very real thing, unfortunately for Carson. Otherwise, I think he would still be honestly a starter. And there's a reason why Andy Reid went out and got him, and Sean McVay went out and got him. Two great coaches. Like, coaches know good quarterbacks. Look no further than Kevin O'Connell plucking Sam Darnold, and a lot of people are like, Sam Darnold, and it's like, yeah, Sam Darnold, 12-2, let's go. So trust the great coaches that know what they're talking about, and that is the benefit. That is the benefit of having Kevin O'Connell. Because if Kevin O'Connell says, you know what, let's keep Sam Darnold, then you trust it. That's who you trust. You trust the head coach who you pay all the money to, who has led you to all these victories. You trust his ability to know which quarterback can he win with. That's what the Kansas City Chiefs did with Andy Reid. And Andy Reid was like, I need someone better than Alex Smith. I need Patrick Mahomes. And the rest is history. So if Kevin O'Connell says, hey, we're going to move on from Sam, you know, JJ is exactly what we want, and he will elevate this team even more, then yeah, you do it. You take that risk. And if JJ doesn't end up being great in the NFL, you still have Kevin O'Connell, and you still then have the ability to kind of move forward and kind of course correct and figure something else out. I think you can still technically franchise tag Sam Darnold. I think that's a possibility. But yeah, like I said, I don't want to get too lost in what to do with Sam at this point, because it just seems like unnecessary conversation right now, considering that the Vikings are true contenders. If they were just kind of like happy to be there, limping into the playoffs, then we could have that conversation. It's a more interesting conversation than the team itself. But right now, the team itself and the season itself is more interesting than what to do with Sam Darnold. You have that conversation when there's not much to talk about. There's plenty to talk about. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Minnesota Vikings, Sam Darnold, I guess, and anything else? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.